Submission, the state of being obedient, the act of accepting the authority or control of someone else. In Alton Tower's case, that someone else would be a sinister, futuristic government located in the X sector, which in the early 2000s was home to the Black Hole, Oblivion, Enterprise, and the futuristic torture device, Submission.
You have been designated to challenge submission. Submission is no longer in operation.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare, the online learning community for creatives, with thousands of classes. Skillshare is actually how I learnt to use Premiere Pro to edit these very videos. Taking creative classes, you can find exactly what you need to continue growing and learning. The fundamentals of Photoshop has been a huge help in improving my thumbnails from what they were, yeesh, to now. The best part of Skillshare is that you can jump around to all sorts of topics, be it video editing, photography, audio recording, which is one thing I knew nothing about. It's a community that you can discover exactly what you need, all included in short, easy to learn classes. The first 1,000 people to use the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare to try out all of these creative classes. In 1997, all of the rides in Fantasy World at Alton Towers were removed from the area, leaving just the Black Hole. This was to make way for Alton Tower's secret weapon 4, Oblivion. The bright and colourful Fantasyland was renamed X Sector, a secret government testing facility. The Black Hole tent would be repainted dark blue and silver, and the area would get a much more sinister theme. Along with Oblivion's opening, 2 other rides came to the area, relocated from elsewhere in the park. The first was the Energizer, that had opened in 1995 in Festival Park, a Mondial Supernova-style ride that was located next to the Corkscrew. The other attraction would be Enterprise, a Huss ride that opened at the park in 1984, also next to the Corkscrew. In its new location, it would fit right inside Oblivion's bank turn, complementing the world's first brand new roller coaster and making X Sector the home to 2 roller coasters and now 2 flat rides, fleshing out the area to have something for the whole family. The Energizer would remain popular, but would stay in the land for just 2 seasons, before at the end of the 2000 season, it was once again relocated and renamed as the Bone Shaker. It would now be back in a familiar location in a re-themed festival park, called Ugland. The space it left in X Sector would get a new, more thrilling flat ride.
The Zipper. It's just the kind of high-rising excitement you'd expect from the people at Chance Rides, who really know how to bring out the caged animals in fun-loving American families and throw them for a loop.
Chance Rides manufacturing was incorporated in 1961 by Richard H. Chance, an amusement business veteran who began building small trains in 1946. The company were responsible for many trains found in amusement parks and zoos, along with multiple carousels, Ferris wheels, and eventually roller coasters. They would also begin to design flat rides. In 1998, Chance Rides, in partnership with ARM Rides, a new Ohio-based company, would build the Inverter. Chance would build the passenger vehicle, and ARM the main structure. Costing $500,000 per attraction, the Inverter would stand at 48 feet tall. Using a counterweight arm bearing and rotating at 8 rotations per minute, it would feature a 24-person gondola with riders sitting in 6 rows of 4 that would rotate back and forth. This allowed the gondola itself to flip the opposite direction at twice the rate of the main arm, flipping riders around 360 degrees. Chance Morgan built many single-arm inverters, the majority of which were traveling-style attractions that would be moved around on 54-foot-long trailers. They could be set up and disassembled in just a few hours. They would also, however, build a handful of permanent doubled arms versions, offering double the capacity and at a pretty incredible sight where both would run together. While permanent single inverters were more common, in 1999, the first double permanent inverters began to open in the US. One was built at Geauga Lake, and another at Six Flags Great Adventure. These two would be known as Time Warp. Six Flags New England would also get one called Double Trouble, as well as Six Flags New Orleans with Voodoo Volcano. It would be 2001 that would see a new version open at Alton Towers, this time known as Submission. After the relocation of the Energizer, the new attraction was quickly installed over the closed season. Costing £2 million, the ride was billed as an instrument of torture. On March 31st, 2001, Submission opened to the public. The sixth white knuckle ride in the park would start by rocking slowly backwards and forwards, turning riders further and further over. Eventually, with the arms at the vertical position, riders would hang upside down for several seconds before hurtling back to the floor, giving the ride the slogan, "Hang in there." On the opposite end of the arm would be a counterweight that looked like large metal spikes, which when in operation would quickly swoop past the ground. The ride was custom themed for X Sector and didn't look like any of the other double inverters found throughout the world. By rotating the arms in opposite directions, it created a visually exciting ride for those watching. One that even looked somewhat intimidating, exactly like a futuristic torture device. Alton Towers had done a great job of taking a normal fairground attraction and using the park's marketing and theming created something much more unique. In the style of Oblivion, the ride was given a slogan, commercial, and a huge marketing campaign that you would normally find for a much bigger attraction. Adding an attraction at the bottom of X Sector that was visually appealing would instantly draw crowds towards it. With the lower height requirement of 1.2 meters, it was also a good stepping stone for smaller riders to experience. Everything looked set to have another hit attraction at Alton Towers. The only problem was the ride experience itself. The shiny marketing campaign would not help. Submission had a mixed response by riders. It looked great and was themed well to the area, but many people thought it was extremely rough and painful. The ride's restraints were extremely tight and restrictive on its riders. It featured over-the-shoulder restraints, which were already tight, but also a T-bar would come down between the rider's legs and push the restraints down even further, making the whole experience feel incredibly claustrophobic and somewhat painful before it had even moved, especially for larger riders. Submission was definitely the correct name for the ride. Sadly, it was not very thrilling. Each cycle was always the same, and the amount of thrills it provided were low, with the experience often feeling quite slow. You could even say it was somewhat boring, apart from the pain of the blood rushing to your head at least when you were hanging upside down. Another issue was that if you were not in the front seat, you would spend most of the time looking at the back of the row in front. The front seat of each row did provide the best experience, and the spot was not only the best for views, but where you could actually feel some kind of force. It never felt like the ride was out of control, but a highly formulaic experience. The attraction continued to become less and less popular as the seasons went on. With both gondolas running, the ride could reach 850 riders per hour. When the park was less busy in the early years, just one side of the attraction would operate. Later seasons saw only one side of the attraction operate all season, due to low ridership and cost-saving measures. Submission never became the iconic attraction that it should have been. It was rather a filler for the other experiences in the park, and that was fine. In 2001, the same year Submission opened, Chance discontinued the Inverter ride. With a full refresh of X Sector and the addition of the Samila opening in 2013, submission was restored to top conditions with both sides running once again. It still remained unpopular. However, it was now surrounded by 2 secret weapons, and was a ride that no longer really stood out at the bottom of X Sector. It was removed from the park in early 2014. After 13 years, the attraction, which was now only one of the few left in the world, had dangled nearly 6.9 million guests upside down. Alton stated it would be removed as part of the park's long-term development plan, and making its final ride be in November 10th, 2013. Currently, nothing has replaced the removed ride from the park. Instead, a section of grass sits where the ride once stood.
It combines the best traditions of the past with the finest modern technology to lead Britain's leisure industry into the 21st century. Alton Towers.
Flat rides at Alton Towers are an interesting bunch, and by that, I mean they hardly exist or work, and submission would just be another that would no longer exist. There are very few permanent inverters left operating in the world. Despite submission's flaws, even the worst attractions can create some incredible memories and experiences. And for me, submission is a ride that I will remember fondly. There are many others though who have no love for it at all. I personally have great memories of riding submission, from the time my phone fell out of my pocket and I caught it in a moment of Batman-style reflexes, to the painful feeling of being hung upside down, and then hearing the coins stuck in the attraction rolling around as you return to the ground. While it was a ride not too many people mourned when it was removed, it did look incredible when fully operating, and even quite intimidating. Sadly, the ride experience just never lived up to the appearance, and offered a painful attraction that was never a must-do. After its removal, at least we can sit in the Submission Memorial Ground and enjoy the atmosphere of X Sector, right next to Oblivion's Brake Run. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Expedition Alton Towers. If you enjoyed it, make sure you subscribe to join the expedition. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram for updates on upcoming episodes. And a special thank you to our Patreons for supporting the channel. We will see you next time.